Taigi, labas rytas visiems. How many here are foreigners, guys? Okay, as usual. So, because of our friends from Latvia, most probably, I'm gonna speak in English this time. So, there are several good news and several bad news, actually. So, one of the bad news is actually I'm the last barrier for you before the lunch. So, hope you stay tuned all the time. The second bad thing is, or maybe a good thing, is that, I mean, we are really excited to have this forum here happening, and actually for you, to talk about the journey to the cloud, to talk about transformation and all these things. But the second bad thing is that, let's say, already starting next Monday, we have a really big event from EMC, so-called the EMC World, happening in Vegas, and some of you already flying probably with me already tomorrow morning to States to listen to some really new, exciting launches of new products and so on. So some of the things I'm going to talk today will be already history next week. So what I can promise for you for sure is that we're going to do another kind of roadshow, EMC World Update Tour for you, especially to show what's new and what really new exciting products we have launched. And most probably we're going to meet with you all in autumn in the EMC Forum event. So the same format, breakouts, keynotes, sessions. We're going to have really some nice, exciting topics there to cover. And as you see, I mean, we have in EMC last year and the year before, we already spoke about the journey to the cloud and the new way of transforming IT. Last year we added on top the big data topic actually, and that's really something really hot topic in the market as data is really growing, and you're going to see that. But in the end of my presentations, we're going to see about new transformation and how we're going to transform you as IT people, business, and ourselves, and as well the same cloud. So we are getting the speech, let's say, after EMC World a little bit one level lower into more consume IT, produce IT topics. So that's also going to be some interesting parts. We're going to have after lunch the breakout sessions together with Libor from VMware about so-called Cloud Glue or VC Ops. So actually the product suite which really helps you trendline and manage the things easier in your virtual environments. So not to waste the time, as the time is really ticking fast. I have only 43 minutes left. Well, I'll really try to give you some kind of higher level pitch about EMC and how we think about and talk about the journey to the hybrid cloud, to the private cloud and the public cloud, taking the best of two, merging them in a single your enterprise IT. So disruptive changes usually, I mean, they create something what we really saw in our lives, I mean, some lasting changes here. The same, I mean, we had with all these waves of changes happening through the time. Most probably some of you still remember mainframes, and if I do look at the cloud computing, it somehow reminds me that we are kind of stepping back some way in years. So, I mean, we had mainframes, we have microcomputers, we have users, and we have centralized IT resources, and now we're kind of moving to the cloud, which is really, you know, a little bit foggy when you get up there. So those of you who are flying, you know that. I mean, from the ground, it really looks wonderful up in the skies. But when you are in the cloud, you never know when you're actually ending up in the fog. So it's really misty there, you know, to find some things. So most of you have faced these challenges already. So, I mean, when I usually talk with the customers, actually, we face these things, you know, who is the cloud architect? Who is the cloud administrator? I mean, it's really tricky. You have the server administrators. You have the storage administrators. These guys know what they are doing. So what does the cloud administrator? What is the cloud architect? I mean, who is that guy? You know, hunting clouds, you know, putting them in one shape? Kind of. So these actually ways of changes create also opportunities for us and for you as well. So how to manage that IT really faster? For me, especially, the cloud is really about different way of managing IT. So it's easier, it's more flexible, it's more dynamic. And these catalysts for changes, I mean, most of you have faced them. I mean, the really silly question, but who of you have bigger budget this year? No. Good. So meaning you are in one of these three categories. Who of you have been facing some kind of security issues in a data centers? Most of you have, but some of you don't even know that you have them. Also, who of you have faced this data growth? Most probably most of you. I see some hands there. So I mean, that's actually about you. That's actually about our data centers. That's all single vendor in the market will show you the same presentation. That's actually investment, and that's actually the power, cooling, you as a IT staff. And that's really interesting. I mean, how that market will go there. I mean, the cost related to the keeping data center up and running, getting more power, more cooling, more servers and so on, I mean, it's really increasing. Somehow, each year we do these events and I don't see more people coming. That's really strange. I mean, if we have more servers needed, meaning more administrators, but seems no. So that's the IDC study actually sponsored by EMC at year 2010. It's not really well seen here, but that's projected amount of data which gonna grow in the upcoming 10 years or decade. And that's a factor of 4 to 4 times. So a lot of zettabytes. That's really nice, I mean, when you put that in the numbers with zeros. I mean, IDC a little bit changed the forecast and moved these numbers from 4 to 4 to almost 53 or 54 now. And that happened in 1 or 1.5 years. So I mean, the data is really growing. And much of that data is really unstructured. The funny thing is that out of 90% of these data, your guess, who is actually having the data? It's only 10% of all the worldwide companies which actually has these unstructured data. That's Facebook, with almost 1/7 of all mankind data there, users. That's Gmail. I mean, no one pays for Gmail, but when Gmail is not working, everyone is really shouting. I mean, it's really bad. Gmail is not working. We have to punish them. But I mean, we haven't paid any single dollar for them. Amazon, all these things. I mean, the companies gather the data. They do the analytics out of the data. They get the new insights from the business. That's actually how we do that. I mean, some of you already I saw here, I mean, doing photos, you know, putting some notes and so on. If you have the sync to the iCloud, meaning you're creating the data. You're building and building and building the data all the time. You're keeping the data in your data centers, gathering them in different formats. If it's video, it's files, scans, documents, content management, and so on. We used to talk about the structured data, which is real, I mean, viable in our environments, like, you know, columns and rows. That's databases in general. But we really forget from time to time that we have really a lot of files there. Really a lot of interesting things, like the same Facebook. Why not to use the Facebook for making the right business decisions? And EMC, I mean, the latest acquisition of ours was the Greenplum kind of analytic engine with the Hadoop. Most of you, I don't know, who heard Hadoop? Okay, some, that's good. All right, real emerging technology in the market. And I mean, now what I can do, I can analyze my structured data in the database against Facebook. I want to know what my users who are in my database, named as my customer name and surname, really talk about me on the Facebook. So I can run the query against Facebook and say, okay, that's sentimental analysis. These guys are really bad. I'm with them only because I have the contract. But when my contract is ending, I'm really going to quit them. So you can do it now. That's kind of new way how to make the decisions and how to make the business. That's kind of the number actually about, let's say, the big enterprises being attacked, and I think you know all these things, yeah? Sony, RSA, VMware, sorry to say that, but also, I mean, the source code was released. It was really old one, but still. I mean, these guys are really, you know, they are intelligent. They are actually eager to know much more, and they're really all the time, I mean, pushing to the limits. They can, if they really, I mean, these so-called persistent threats or the users who really, you know, seek to get the information, they're not like the childs from the school, which, you know, tried one time and that's it. Social engineering, I mean, these guys spend years, 2 years, to to create the attack on all the different possible vectors to get the information which they need. China, Zeus, all these botnet activities. 88% of the companies actually faced from the Fortune 500 face the botnet activities. Most of you have botnet activities, but you don't even know that your PCs are really, already infected by Trojans and so on. So-called command and control attacks internally. To really see them, you have to have some kind of network analysis, security analytics platforms. We have a really amazing product for that called NetWitness, which really can both do and find the attack and also recreate it as a session. So you can see where the attack started, what happened after that. So maybe the user got the file, he opened the file, the Trojan went there, and it started to send control and command sessions to like proxy server or whatever. Usually you don't even get that with IPS or IDS solutions in the data center. As IDS, mainly what it shows for you, something like 10 different calls or sessions before the attack started and 10 after. So you know that the attack has happened, but how, what happened, what the data were taken or not taken, most probably most of you don't even figure out that. And that's really, the concern. Not much here. I would say in the Baltics, no one's taking care a lot about the data. That's a little bit, risky talk by me, but it happens. So, interesting. These are actually the changes happening, but that's the slide about you. That's the increase by the staff. That's the IT guys, actually, how they are increasing. Information is growing 44 times. We don't see 44 times growth here. Cybersecurity risks and so on. Cloud management and all these things, automation, orchestration, some really buzzwords which, in the end, workflow, self-service portals. Have you heard these? Everyone is talking about these. To create them, it really takes time. It really takes intelligence and knowledge, meaning that you actually have to learn more, educate yourself more, spend your time more on getting new technologies, new insights. But the problem is that you don't have time, as you have to spend 73% of your time to keep the data center up and running. Bad. That's bad. So, we have entered that era of information as we talk. Here, most of you already know, doing some insights with your information and starting to move on further, make decisions based on that, do analytics and so on. And that's kind of, enter the cloud. Here we start, how to manage it differently and so on. So we as EMC actually have the vision that we want to lead our customers to the cloud. And we want to show them how to do that. We took that journey ourselves starting 6 years ago. And now EMC IT internally, what we have, is 98% virtualized environments. We have built our new data center in North Carolina, which is something like 400,000 square feet, and it's totally virtualized. Meaning all single application we have there is virtualized. That's really amazing. It took us, I would say, quite a few months and years, only 6 years to do it. Meaning if you start today, most probably when you're going to end that, that's going to change again. You see, these waves of changes are happening really fast. So meaning that you have to go somewhere a little bit faster, take the best knowledge from all the single vendor in the market, either it's VMware, EMC, or others. So when we talk about the private cloud, actually, and the hybrid cloud, as it says the topic, we have, in this case, internal enterprise IT. We kind of move to that private cloud, but we also have this service provider, which really makes some nice and interesting offers. And service providers in general, or the public cloud offerings, are really good in some cases, as due to the scale and due to the size of them, they really can offer you less expensive infrastructure. For some of the workloads, you can move there. You don't have to keep everything internally. We're going to talk about some kind of cloud advisory services later on. It's about actually evaluating which kind of workloads we can move from our internal IT and put to the public clouds. And that's cheaper. Why not to put some kind of archive files there, which are not really sensitive? It will cost like, I don't know, 0.01 cent per gigabyte if it's Amazon. Why not? You will never get the same cost here internally, locally. So that's quite okay. So the journey usually starts with the infrastructure. And that's kind of infrastructure virtualization. That's really about concentrating your resources. If you had 10 servers before, what you have now, you have the same 10 servers but virtual, and usually keeping like 5 in the back, which are physical. It doesn't change much of the things, but it really helps you, concentrate the resources. But it also gives you the challenges. Before you were knowing that, okay, that's my workload which runs on this server. Now it runs somewhere on the hypervisor. Where do I know it? Is it this server or that server? That changed. The numbers there were quite old, so I'm not pushing much. So that's kind of the hybrid cloud approach here, the mixing both worlds here. Also, that's really a different way, how you really start to manage that. If you hear VMware talking, so Hyper-V is usually so-called cloud operating system. And if you want really to move your workload somewhere to the cloud, the session before you had, you should usually move your security rules as well with that. As you're not sure that the service provider will really, think the same as you think about security. You also have to keep the kind of compliance in both ways, both integration. So it's not almost possible, I guess, to move the, say, from physical to virtual or virtual to physical. That's quite hard to do that. So, you have to manage somehow that. You have to federate, so meaning that you know where your data is actually residing. As if I place my data on Google, who can tell me in which continent, in which server it will land in the end? That's tricky. Google is using really sophisticated clustered approach in their data centers, the same Hadoop, actually, kind of Google distributed file system there. And these guys really splitting a lot of information worldwide just to protect it. But the last crash they had several years ago, they were almost impossible to recover the data back. So meaning that even these guys are not sure where the workload will reside in the end. So setting different protection schemas in the end without really knowing inside where the data is really hard to do that. Also, security, GRS, all this governance, risk and compliance things. This takes time. You know how our security partners talk from RSA, say, okay, you sell the product once, but you consult through all the life. That's usually what it ends up with the security. Either you get to have the knowledge yourself, or you really get someone trusted from the market to help you move on. In this case, EMC, we have launched so-called service provider program worldwide. And we targeted the 100 biggest service providers worldwide to build on the EMC infrastructure, to make you as an EMC customer compatible platform to move the workloads there and back. So these are just a few of them, but we have that based on the continental levels, we have that based on the worldwide levels, and we have them based on some kind of regional levels. So meaning that when you have EMC infrastructure in the backend and you want to move the workload to the public cloud offerings or service providers, you are really sure that it will be compatible. You can see where the data is residing and know that these are following the same rules as you do. So that already helps in this case. When we go to the secondary phase, which is actually meaning that the bigger percentage of virtualized infrastructure already in a data center through the time, we actually talk about applications. And that's the hardest part. We have so-called Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, and these really standard enterprise applications, which you usually run on some kind of big machines, so following scale-up approach. But why not to make them scale out? If I need my Oracle at the end of the month for reporting or data warehousing, why shouldn't I make it scalable? Put that on VMware. It will grow up, it will shrink back when it does the job. You don't need to keep the resources all the time in the data center just for one single task, which happens once per month or one per year. That's the Amazon Elastic Cloud in this case. There are different approaches on that, but I mean, we have some kind of industry trends in application, so where EMC is preferred vendor for different applications. And actually, we are the biggest shop for Oracle as EMC. Most of EMC applications are actually based on Oracle. Somehow others are all the competitors, you know. SAP, VMware, Files, Shares, Microsoft applications. With all of them, like most of the vendors, we have so-called Golden Alliance agreements. But if you really look further, and most of you maybe heard about, say, Spring Source by VMware, Ruby on Rails, Python, and all these things. I mean, that's the frameworks for developing your applications in that cloud manner. So if you put the application on a Spring Source, you can really make it easy. The application itself will understand that the workload is increasing, it will scale out, and after it finishes, it will shrink back. So it's more like scale up, scale down, scale out, scale in, scale out, and so on. But yeah, that's actually the way, how it does. If we talk about the same, let's say, Hadoop and all these integrations, it's easy for you to buy the resources from, let's say, the Google or Amazon Elastic Cloud. If you need more performance for a single project, what you do, you write application with the Python or all these open frameworks, you integrate that through the Amazon API, meaning that at the end of the month, you'll put all your workload, migrate there, do the job, and get back to your data center. And you pay only for 2 days, not to invest in the infrastructure, which really ages, and you need it once per month. The second thing VMware and we are actually talking is about end-user computing. It's not anymore VDI, so-called. It's more about how we really access different information from different devices. Especially, I mean, IT users, they're really, you know, creative. So say, okay, I don't need any more PC, I want my Apple phone to access everything. Another guy has BlackBerry, Android, and so on. It's really the pain for IT to manage, to get different access for different devices, how to secure these devices. I mean, how do you know what I'm gonna do with my Apple if I have some business critical and sensitive information here? How to encrypt it, how to make sure that the data is not lost, so-called DLP or data loss prevention systems, getting inside how it's being used, and in the end to manage all the data. So from VMware, you're gonna hear some nice words like Octopus, App Blast, which is kind of, you know, application streaming. So why you need to build AutoCAD in your PC if you can use AutoCAD from HTML5 supported browser? So I have my iPad and I can draw with AutoCAD. I don't need to have it installed on my PC. I can have it somewhere in the data center. Octopus and all these things. I mean, Horizon application management things. Really amazing. That's how you use the cloud. That's how you used to consume everything. And that's how you can build your own data center here. So that new layer of IT, actually, it really needs to be secured. So we had previous session actually talking about security, which, again, also, to provision resources is quite easy. To create a new server is really easy. I mean, to deprovision it or delete it, it's also quite easy, but raise your hands who have deleted all the VLANs associated to all your previous projects you had from your switches. No hands. Usually no one is touching network in the end. You create 100 VLANs for different projects you had, but you never ever delete them in the end. As I mean, touching the network really sometimes may be painful, as you don't know, I mean. But then you leave what? Open ports, different VLANs, different vectors for attack. I mean, you have to secure that. Also, you have to automate in the end. I mean, when we talk about 5 servers, it's quite easy. Okay, you put the guy, and the guy is playing with the keyboard with 5 servers. But if you have the 10,000 of these servers, all virtualized, all moving somewhere based on some kind of resource schedulers, which is also kind of invented by VMware. So, I mean, your workload today is playing here, tomorrow is playing in a secondary data center. How to catch it? I mean, really tricky in the end. You have to put the rules. Someone has to follow all these IT regulations, change requests, approvals, and so on. That means that you have to transform your business as well to suit with the cloud. That's also a tricky part. So to accelerate the journey to the cloud, actually, you have to go with the new skills and new roles internally. I mean, these traditional roles like storage administrator, network administrator, they're still there. You still have underlying infrastructure which you have to manage. But on top of that, we start to talk about this guy, cloud administrator, which does whatever he wants. Most probably, no one knows what he's doing, and he's managing the cloud. I mean, all these verbs, nouns, and so on are really tricky in this case. If we talk about capacity manager, what does this guy do? He's actually responsible for getting the right resources in place. He's tracking the thresholds. He's tracking the health of the data center. We have, from VMware, amazing technology, VC Ops, vCenter Operations, which really shows you in nice star format that your data center is healthy. The workload is quite okay right now, but it's really getting trendy and it's really getting utilized in the end. So please get some more servers in the backend to utilize them. Get more capacity as you need more. The data is growing. Also, I mean, you lost some more security cases there, so you have to see that you need more licenses and so on. Cloud architect is actually the guy which has to build all these clouds. So somewhere, drawing in the sky. That looks like that, and then it goes the workflow here, that's the object, that's the process, and so on. I mean, you have to invest, meaning that all these skills actually now combine everything. Infrastructure, servers, storage, processes, automation, applications. You have to know everything. It's not anymore enough for you to know that this server, with these blinking lights means that it's fault or it's dead. Now you have to know how to move the workload from that dead server before it even crashes. So that's how you spend your time, learning and educating yourself all the time. That's really interesting. On the other hand, I mean, cloud services, why not? I mean, how long it takes for you to launch the new infrastructure for a new project, for new database, for new application? I mean, if it's bigger enterprise, what you do usually? You have, I don't know, 5 meetings per week with business, 5 meetings per week with IT, 5 meetings per day with security, and so on. It's just meetings, 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 and meetings all the time, just to sync with everyone. Okay, that's the ports we're going to open, that's the security, that's the procedure, that's the change request going to be here and here and here. And that's the project which will end in 9 months to create, I don't know, 3 servers in high available and disaster recovery scenarios for like Oracle to place on top, I don't know, 1 new mailing system or new application. So that really takes time. Why not to make it self-service? You build everything there already by the rules. So you put the business layer a little bit lower already, predefined. So you agree with business on SLAs. You agree with business and security guys on security risk for different systems. You set all these parameters already in the automation and the orchestration part, meaning that next time you need something, you just give the user access to the self-service portal and you create these servers easily. That's not easy, that's for sure. But why not? As EMC, we have really good education program. In Lithuania, we have at least 2 universities which really teaches the students on EMC, information storage and management. There are 2 universities in Lithuania which follows that course and adopted that course in their study program. But also we have all these, like cloud architect. We have IT as a service architects and all these people. Meaning that you're getting the skills, you're getting the knowledge, spending time with the guys who actually have created these clouds and built these clouds, mainly. Also some of the technology tracks here. So based on actually these 3 kind of catalysts for changes, you really have to filter. So let's say if we talk here about the cost, mainly. So are you sure that you really need to place all the workloads here in your data center, as it costs money? As I haven't seen no single hand raised for those who have higher budgets, meaning that's the way how you really get the money out of what you use right now. then you can grab some of the money from these 70% which you really spend for operations and keeping the data center up and running. Then we talk also about the risks. Actually, can we move that workload to the public cloud, or hybrid cloud, or internal cloud? Maybe just keep it somewhere in the vault. You know, there are so-called archiving systems, which usually somewhere, places in one server room. Then after 10 years, they just, put the wall instead of the doors and leave 2 cables out. So why not to put the system like that in this manner? It happens like that also. But I mean, that's really evaluating the risk. So you know what answers you should write from the business and ask yourself, can you move these workloads? Can you manage these workloads in the end? And are they, let's say right now, mandatory to leave here, or they are candidates to move to the public cloud? Also, I mean, management and functionality aspects. So what kind of functionality you get in the end? Should I keep it internally, or should I move it somewhere to the public cloud where I get self-service portal, maybe in the beginning, just to use it for some simple applications? Some mailing servers you have internally for public mailing campaigns. Why not to place them somewhere publicly? I don't need to keep them close to Exchange, as it really uses the backend storage IOPS for you. So all these questions, I mean, we can help you raise them, and we can help evaluate everything here. So it's kind of the readiness. So Cloud Readiness Accelerator, 2-day workshop with the on-site in your premises or at our premises. And we just talk the business language. Are you okay with that and that? Can we move this work? Is it really impacting your business? What happens is if this information will be leaked in the end? So that's the cost. That's okay, that's not okay. So then we have kind of roadmap that these workloads can move to the public cloud or hybrid cloud, and these must stay here. Then in the end, I mean, the same readiness. It's more about building processes, automation, orchestration part, helping you to follow the tracks and transform the organization internally. So that's kind of, we had that not so far in time ago run in Sweden at one enterprise there. It took 2 months actually for these guys to get ready to move to the cloud. So all this workshop, 2 months, that's not so cheap in the end for the Baltic market, but I mean the value of it is really amazing. Also, I mean, in these different kind of cloud models, when we talk about the same Amazon and let's say private cloud and enterprise cloud and so on, we really have faced so-called Uber clouds. I mean, these guys who will never ever, manage to chase and get there in time. So Google, Amazon, Microsoft. I mean, with Microsoft, I really love it. You go to the Microsoft Cloud's website and you can buy 1 cloud or 2 clouds. Maybe you can buy 6 clouds. It's just buying, clouds in quantity, not in the infrastructure part. But I mean, these guys did an amazing job creating the trend line, making it really face and transform IT in this case. Then we have so-called virtualization stacks. So vertical stack built with all the infrastructure layers there. Storage, servers, middleware, applications, databases, and so on. Here we have HP, IBM, Oracle with their solutions. There is one single problem with that. Usually these are really closed. So it's not open. You're really stuck with that. Try to buy Oracle box and try to run there like VMware with virtualized Exchange or something. Sorry, brother, that's not possible. I don't know if there's Oracle people here, but it's like, I mean, Oracle, you say, where do I put my Exchange? Why do you need Exchange? Use Oracle database for that. Yeah, but I mean, that's the trick. And there is so-called virtualization approach here. So it's not EMC, the single vendor in this collision, mainly. So I think it was last year when we established that kind of joint venture company called VCE, or Virtual Computing Environment now called. So it's like EMC, VMware, and Cisco. That's really about creating the converged infrastructure based on open standards. So different vendors with the different standards there with integrated management, operation, and automation softwares. Actually, we moved even further with that. It's not here, but we create a so-called vSpecs. It's more like reference architecture-based approach on the cloud. So that's only available through our partners here locally, not from EMC, but meaning that the partner can build the cloud for you on the hardware pieces you are actually already using in your data center. So you're not stuck with VMware in this case, you're not stuck with Cisco in this case, you're only stuck with EMC in this case. That's kind of reasonable. But meaning that you can choose whatever kind of hypervisor, whatever kind of server, whatever kind of networking vendor you prefer, and you have the skills to manage. You can pack everything based on the proven architecture. So meaning if you need, I don't know, cloud for SAP, or Oracle, this kind of user, this amount of users, and let's say, then adding Exchange on top, 10,000 or 1,000 mailboxes, and let's say 500 VDI machines. You just buy the stack which is proven, which is really tested and validated that it will work in such case of scenario, and that's already shipped to your data center, built. That's a really easy way to stop from all these meetings, evaluations, architecture. Who of you have already faced and tried to architect or create the VDI environments in your data centers? So can any one of you say how many IOPS you need per single VM or single VDI machine? If it's lightweight, heavyweight, if you use memory commit, overcommit technologies and all these things. There is a lot of things you need to take in mind before you do it. So you have to build it, then you have to buy some kind of hardware, test it on top of that, and let's say, okay, that's quite okay compared to what I really want to achieve in the end. And it will take like 3 months for sure, today, day by day. I mean, here you just buy the proven architecture, it already works, it's tested. It's tested in our labs, it's tested, let's say, at VMware labs, it's tested at Oracle labs or Microsoft labs. So everyone just, put approved on that. That's quite amazing. So why EMC for your journey? So first of all, we have that vision and we actually we did that journey already ourselves. So we are a little bit in front, maybe, kind of front lines. We did that, we took all that journey, and now we're facing another issues, which you're gonna face most probably yourself. So maybe next year we're gonna talk about new things here, really getting deep there about operational things and so on, how to manage it. So, well, again, as everyone will say, we have the marketing leading technologies, and we have. We're gonna have some of the slides later on about that. We have really world-class partner ecosystem. We have really nice partners in the public cloud offerings. We have partners who work as integrators and resellers in this case, and also some of the financial strengths. Well, we have some cash, less than Apple does, but quite a lot to acquire anyone. So that's actually the talk we're going to do next year, or week after. We're going to get back from EMC World. So we are really pushing that really one level below the cloud story. So now we're talking about transforming IT, transforming the business, and transforming yourself. So meaning, I haven't touched the big data story today and kind of analytics here, but it's really about making the new business decisions, transforming IT to adopt the business and really drive the business. Also, one single question, I mean, who of you really buys servers to heat your rooms? And then conditioners to cool yourself? I mean, none of these sitting here actually bought any single server or IT piece for yourself. These were all dedicated for the business. Meaning that either you show the business how to adopt and drive, how to find new opportunities here, or you're really, stuck and left alone. Also about yourself is, again, getting new skills and new roles, how to manage. So last year, 2011, we had the mega launch of 41 different products in EMC world. And this year, we have another mega launch too in EMC world, sorry. And actually, we're going to have really new technologies here. We have amazing pieces and bits of technology created there. I have the guy here standing with a TV camera, so I can't tell much of that, because it's still NDA. But we really I can tell you what's already announced in the market. So we're going to have the new VMAX, twice bigger as we have now, the symmetrics. 4 petabytes, almost 4,000 of drives in the storage system. We're going to have the same VMAX built already for service provider with built-in metering, chargeback technologies, quality of service classes, and everything there. So we can buy 10 terabytes of gold class storage, 15 terabytes of silver, and 40 terabytes of bronze. Everything will be built in with the quality of service, with all the metering and chargeback technologies. We're going to have a really bigger scale-out system. We have so-called Isilon scale-out NAS, which is 15 petabytes right now. We're going to add some more double-digit percentage capacity on that. We're going to have really new integrated application, software suite, which will help you to track the SLAs and measure them and show them in the business language. So that's like 4-hour SLA for this application, and that's 8 hours for this application. And that's already built in the storage technology. So really amazing things there. I know if some of you maybe heard already that Intel is launching the Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge technologies of new servers. We already have Ivy Bridge in our storage systems tested. That's not even yet in the market, but we already have it. 4 times more performance. That's amazing. So we're going to get back with all these things week or 2 weeks later on. So those of you who are interested really, can call me, can call the partners and ask them, to come and present. So that's 4 minutes earlier than I planned, meaning that you can go and rush to the lunch, or in case you have some questions, we can talk now and try to answer that.